Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. As you might already know, this old man of 50 years sitting here in the chair behind the mic is a lover of all music, forms of music. Obviously, some stuff I can't bear, but we all have those, don't we? I love my prog, my punk, my heavy metal, my rock and roll, my jazz, my blues, you name it, I love it. But there is something very special to my heart, as you would all know if you've been listeners of the show for some time, or know me personally. I do love a fair bit of prog rock or progressive rock. So for those that don't know what progressive rock is, just a quick refresher, it's just a terminology that was used in the early 70s, which means it's a music form that's different to anything else, more textured, layered, interesting. It was just a pull away from the rock and roll, the glam scene of the early 70s, the sort of throwawayness of pop. People wanted to bring the nuances of classical music and their classically trained musicianship to rock and roll and to guitar, drums and bass, and perfectly fine by me. And some of it worked and some of it didn't. There's some of it's pomposity, some of it's noodly nuttiness, and some of it's absorbing, wonderful, life affirming and life changing, i.e., as you might know if you listen to my shows, my thoughts on Genesis' Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This particular week we're going to be talking about Steven Wilson's fourth solo album. Now, Steven Wilson originally was with Porcupine Tree. He does a lot of musical things. I'm not going to go on about everything he does there, but most people will know him from the Porcupine Tree and his solo career. Now, he is a musical auteur. Okay, so he basically dabbles with everything. His mind is a constant wash, a thickness, a layer of musical notes. Intrinsically, that's all his soul, I think, brings. Like, not that I'm not saying he's not got other things that he does, but that is what his whole life is wrapped in. And you can tell that it's by his music that he plays, that he writes, that he listens to. He's not just going, right, I'm only listening to heavy metal now, that's all I'm doing, that's all I'm going to play. He has fingers in every pie. Okay, one of the reasons why he loves prog so much, I think, is because of that ability to dabble in all forms of music that is at hand to him. I think he's the kind of guy that thinks, I don't need to be tailored down to one spot, right? I'm going to make this is right now, this is what I feel emotionally. Now, he is known for his being a darker, morose. I mean, even he admits that he doesn't do happy songs, not because he's a dark person. I think that that's the way his musical mind works, in that sort of some people live on the buoyant light side of life, others live in the middle, and some on the dark side, and some traverse all three. If you're lucky to be one of those people, and I think he is one of them, he finds more interest in the borders, the liminal borders between dark and light, I don't think he finds, although some later stuff he's done, some of the more sort of disco-y, ABBA-based stuff is lighter, poppier, because he does love a bit of pop. But this album, A Hand Cannot Erase, his fourth studio album, came out in 2015, and I have to say, I've listened to this album. I was very lucky. I, with my good friend John and Parksy and Mark, saw him play this tour at the Metro in Sydney, and to say it was life-changing, I think, is an understatement. To be fair, listeners, truly it was. I can imagine now how people felt when they first saw Floyd or Genesis, or any band that's musically, I don't know, it could be anyone, even the Piss. I mean, anything. It's just people that, if it changes your life, musically. I mean, Black Sabbath was the one first originally with me in 1989, but this one here was just joyous in every way. I'd come across Steven Wilson when he was working with Fish on the Sunsets on Empire album. Then I moved into his Porcupine Tree stuff. Go back in my series, you might find, if you go delve back, you'll find I did a review for Fear of a Blank Planet, which is my favourite Porcupine Tree album. I also did their last album as well, which was a first for many years with Wilson. But this album here, so it's not a concept album. So he wrote a prog album, The Raven, Cannot Sing, is truly progressive as a concept of a prog album. It's actually the Raven that Refused to Sing. Sorry, I'll get that right, listeners. That's an album for another episode. That takes a lot of listening to. But this is Hand to Canada Rays. It's not a concept album as such. It has an overriding concept, of which I have only of late discovered. I've listened to it dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but I've always thought of it as one overriding story. And then I sat down with this in a cafe with a cup of coffee and a pencil and a pad of paper, and quietly let it run over me again. And I really felt that now I've found the true meaning of the album. For me, I mean, as I said, when I've said this before, when you're reviewing music, particularly conceptual music, what the concept of what the artist writes and portrays and what you think it is could be different, and that's wonderful, because it's what's your perception of the lyric and of the musical interaction. This is what's wonderful about music in general and prog in general, right? It just gives you, there's more than just one interpretation. Unless it's straightforward, I want to hold your hand, or, something like that, then fine. But in a more complex music that we all most of us like to delve into, we do need to think that one interpretation. So if I interpret this song in one way and you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. Please, I'd love to hear your opinions. Don't feel that it's what I don't want is people to get angry and say this is not what it means, because it's what it means to you, right? And then what it means to me. I will never disagree what it means to you. It's the same way that scholarly academics, over the Bible and the Torah and the Quran, when they sit down and discuss religious text, it should be personal interpretation, not literal interpretation, right? Anyway, so this album's overriding concept for me, that I've worked out, is loss. All right, loss. As I said, Stephen Wilson is a lover of all the sort of sadness and darkness of life, and it is an album of loss. It's still, don't go, oh my god, I'm going to not listen to this album. I don't need that. It does have uplifting moments. It's musically, it brings me to tears. It wakens me up. It's soporific, it's moving, it's generous, it's stark, it's cold, it's powerful, it's intrinsically, as a musical form, not taking the lyric away, a huge piece of music. Now, it's got some amazing musicians on this album. I'm not going to tell you every track they play on, because I think what will happen is that it will get, the whole episode will just be me explaining that. So I'm going to tell you the names of the people on it and what they do, basically. Okay, you've got Stephen Wilson. Obviously, he's doing lead vocals. He's on the mellotron, which is a keyboard. Okay, bass guitar, banjo, Hammond dulcimer. He does the programming and the shaker and effects. Okay, Guthrie Govan, brilliant guitarist. Basically plays on on most tracks, lead guitarist on 2. Nick Beggs, the wonderful Nick Beggs, Sir Nick Beggs, as I would like to get him knighted, plays bass on 2 tracks, also plays Chapman stick on 4 tracks, backing vocals on 5 tracks. You've got Adam Holtzman on piano, now amazing Adam Holtzman, plays Hammond organ, Celeste, Fender Rhodes and a Wurlitzer. Also a Moog Voyager synthesizer, which I've seen him play live, which is unbelievably amazing. And Marco Miniman's on drums. only on 3 tracks actually, which is interesting. But then you've got additional musicians. We've got Chad Walkerman on some drums on track 10. We've got Dave Gregory of XTC on a few tracks. Theo Travis, the amazing sort of jazz musician, on baritone saxophone and flute. You've got Catherine Begley and spoken word. You've got Leo Blair solo vocals. You've got London Session Orchestra on strings, and of course the beautiful Ninette Tayeb on 3 tracks, which I'll talk about later on. So it's incredibly well. It's a piece of a musical wonderment, right? It's right off the track there alone. That alone should draw you in and go, I've got to listen to this. But it's not. Beware, listeners. It's not. Don't get me wrong. I don't want any of these people, my fans, listeners, going, oh my god, it's progs. That means it's going to be noodly, and then I can't get into it. No, not at all. It's very, very accessible. Yes, it is complicated music. Yes, but when we listen to heavy metal, don't we listen to the show, and that can be complicated music. So just take your, you take a moment. Do what I do, sit down quietly somewhere with it, have a hot bath with it. I do, as I said before, I lie down in the bed with the lights off, just the noise cancelling headphones on, and let myself just get washed over by this music. And it's possibly the most, it is almost, I don't know, I feel it's almost like a religious experience for me. I feel transcendent when I listen to this type of music, and this particular album, and I'm going through a bit of a rough patch at the moment mentally with my father, as I've told you before. It's not been an easy time for me and my family, and music like this really could do one or two things. It could send me over the edge, or it could lift me, and I think it's doing the latter. It's lifting me over the edge, and it's also pushing me spiritually to try and cope, and where I am going through a loss moment. I'm grieving for my father. No, he's not passed away, because he's no longer mentally my father anymore. I feel that I'm still grieving, and therefore this is a very cathartic album for me. So it starts off with the first song, the first track. Okay, I'm going to do different here. I'm not going to give you the lyric as I normally do for the songs. I want you to go and listen yourself. I want you to see where you how you feel about it. Okay, but this is just my snapshot feelings for it. Now, when we open the track, the very first track we open is First Regret /3 Years. Now, musically, this straight off the bat has. I'm going to tell you what I wrote. This is what I heard. Influence wise in the first track. Okay, I've got ABBA, Big Country, Tears for Fears. I've got the Beatles. I've got Rush. I feel that it bookends. It starts with this wonderful softness, goes through this sad lyric, and then goes to this brilliant orchestrated stabbing leitmotif that wraps in through the keys, the drums. Minimum on this is just bloody ridiculously good. And the bass, whether it's Nick Beggs or it's Stephen Wilson, it just is incredibly powerful. Now, lyrically, I think this one is about several things. It's called Regret. So it's basically, there's 2 tracks. First Regret and 3 Years. First Regret is for me is a solo-y kind of the music part of it. It's basically just the orchestrated part, which is it goes on for about 3 or 4 minutes. It's just it's operatic in its scope. And then we move through to 3 Years. Now, 3 Years lyrically is interesting, because I originally took it as a lyric about loss of sexual vigor in a relationship, and therefore one of them, either the man or the female, man or the woman of the relationship, or the woman or the woman or the man, whatever your orientation is, One of them leaves because he's not satisfied anymore with the physicality of the relationship. That's when I read into it, when I heard it originally, because of one of the lyrics. One part of the lyric talks about that. But then there's a lyric in there about playground and, you know, looking down and seeing 100 possibilities and sadness of walking away. And I think that is the 3 years, you know, your child going to school and the regret that you have, time has flown and you're no longer holding your newborn, and now they're in the world with other people and there's hundreds of possibilities that they can take, and the regret that you didn't take those 100 those possibilities. I think that's basically where that, and the loss, when I was talking about loss before, I think it's the loss of your youth, actually. The loss of youth, the loss of possibilities, now that you have a child and you have to do the right thing by them and your family. It's also, again, the loss possibly of the physicality of a relationship. And there's your regret, and you're 3 years later. Now, that's what I read into that song. And the lyric is quite compact. It's not a wordy song. And then it crashes into a chaos. It erupts at the end. It's the most pleasurable, almost orgasmic crescendo to this song. It's pure prog at its very, very best. You know, it's layered, textured, motivating, saddening, regretful. It takes your breath away. It doesn't give you time to stop. The keys are pulsating. The drum is moving. It does feel like a transcendence into madness, and then it just washes away, just disappears. And it has this delicateness to it as it thunders away that brought tears to me today. Walking in the sunshine, listening to it. That's what I did this time round. I went for a walk with it, and I had to stop. I had goosebumps. I had a cold sweatiness over my body with it. You might say, "Oh, Tony, stop being so melodramatic." But if you've listened to my show before, you know this is how music touches me. And sometimes it touches you in a way that I just can't put into words, really. It's just an absolutely wonderful experience that I would just want to repeat over and over and over again. And I really hope that one day that I don't put this album on and I don't feel that way. Now, it could be, as I said, because of the way my mental state is at the moment, it's touching me that way. And while it does so, I'm going to enjoy it. Right? I'm going to take it on the ride with it. And I think that it is. Stephen will say this, and I've seen him, you know, recently this year on a live show. Talk about he did one-on-one, and he was saying how it touched music. You know, for him is a way of exercising demons in a lot of ways. It's not just entertainment, and I think that it can just be entertainment. It should just be entertainment. Of course, it is. You know, we put on Abbott Heart of Glass to have a dance, don't we? We don't put it on there to rapturize about its lyrical content, right? But sometimes, like all great art, we as human beings like to analyze things, and I'm one of those people, and this really does it grabs me. Anyway, I've chatted too much, and I've only got through to the second song. God, this is a brilliant album. I hope you're enjoying this as much as me, and I really do hope that you take the way from this and go and listen to this album, and then, you know, when his new album Harmony Codex comes out on September the 29th, that this album hits the mark as much as the new one hits the mark as much as this one. I think it will. Stephen's genius is boundless, in my opinion. Anyway, I will see you on the other side. I need to go and get myself a warm drink, and we'll come back for more of the same. Bye for now. Welcome, guys, back to part 2 of The Hand That Cannot Erase, a voyage into loss, loneliness, sadness, and madness. As you would have picked up if you listened to the first part, it is a very interesting album that I just adore musically and conceptually. So the next song on the list is Hand That Cannot Erase, the title track. It was a single off the album. It features Annette Tayeb on vocals. She is a wonderful voice. It is a brilliant song. It basically the concept of the song is, for me anyway, is about two people separating, not telling their family and friends, one person who wants to go and the other one that doesn't. So the lyric that says hand that cannot erase this love means that, like, just because you're signing the divorce papers doesn't mean I don't love you anymore, right? There's, because there's always one side to every story, right? Two sides to a coin, if you know what I mean. And it's very interesting because it's musically what it sounds like, and this is how I've got it right now. I interpret it this way: it's like two people having a conversation. That's what I wrote here. All right. The voice. So the lyric is one side to the story, where you hear the Nanette and Stephen talking about, singing the lyric about, not telling your friends and keeping secrets and all that sort of stuff. And then the other side is almost like the music itself is telling the other side, the other person's story. So Stephen and Nanette are telling their side of the story as if they're one side of the relationship. And then the music playing that comes in is almost saying, in a musical form, with no verbal, that the other person's side to the story. I don't know if I'm coming across, if you're getting what I mean by that. It's basically it's sad, it's inevitable in this particular person's, obviously for these people's story of their lives, of loving lost love and so on. But it just seems to heave and flow. It really does. It ebbs and flows in a sort of in a really, it's one of the most, it's probably the poppiest song on the album, probably why it made the single. But it's, if you know what I mean. So, like, if you listen to the lyric and then it breaks into a instrumental piece, and the instrumental for me is like the darker side of the vocal, saying why they're leaving, what, it's like it's like, the people say, there's always the moments where you have in long-term relationships where you don't need to communicate to tell something. There's a non-verbal communication. The music to me on this track sounds like non-verbal communication. The beat, the music itself is the silent, sultry, unhappy, disenfranchised partner in the relationship, and the vocal part is the more optimistic, that everything will be okay. We can sort this all out. And you can't take it away by just crossing us out. You can't take away what I feel, and I think that's what happens with this particular song. All right, it just has that sense to it. All right, where have I got it here? Sorry, I'm looking at all my notes. Here we go. Where are we? Yeah, that's basically it. That's how I feel about it. It heaves to and fro, is inevitable loss of love and life after the love that's gone in this song. Again, as I told you, this album is not a lightweight, put on if you want just a bit of pop music kind of thing. It really is a little bit darker and a little bit more tense. But it's a brilliant single, and this single off this album, I will link the video to it in my show notes on YouTube. Nanette Tayeb is beautiful and has a beautiful way of bringing the sadness and the pathos out from the lyric, and almost in a beautiful way of sort of counterbalancing the non-verbal silence of the lyric of the music, the sadness and loneliness and regret that the music has, that the lyric can't portray. And sometimes I think music can portray, I mean, like people say, you know, you can say some more with the look of an eye than you can with a full novel, right? I know that's the case in my relationship, in my marriage. You know, my wife just has to look at me in one way and, oh shit, what have I done? You know what I mean? It's like anything. It's like, you know, even sort of, you know, when if you look at someone like in a more, you know, the come to bed eyes, as my dad would always say, right? Not that he would say it to me, he just said women have come to bed eyes, son, that's what he'd say to me. Don't ask me why he would say that in a conversation. I can't remember. I just remember him saying it to me once. I think he was watching her something on TV, and he said, look, she's got come to bed eyes. And I just remember that sticking in my mind. Anyway, we move from that to Perfect Life. Now this opens with a narration. Now this one, I'm going to be, dear listeners, is very, very important, very pertinent to me. Okay, little side story. I've got 4 brothers, as you've heard before on the show, if you've heard me talk about them. We are very disconnected, all but one. And 2 brothers up from me, so one brother up from me, Ronald, he left home when I was 8, so that's 42 years ago. And I really, no, hang on, was I 8? Or was I turning 11? No, I was 10, so 40 years ago, I was turning 11. And either way, it's a long time ago, isn't it? And he said to me that he would come for my birthday, and I stood at the doorstep that whole afternoon and looked out the window and longed for him to come back, and he never came back. And I only saw him once after that, very sporadically. In my life, I just saw him once, and I have deep regrets that I lived this perfect life. I do. I really do, listeners. I won't deny it. I've got the perfect marriage. I've got wonderful children. I have a great friendship groups. I love my music in my life. I'm doing all right financially. You know, I have a beautiful house. I live in a beautiful country. I'm having the perfect life. No doubt about it. But there are things that in this perfect life that I regret and miss, and I would love for me to grab my brother Ronald and say, look Ron, look at my family, look at my perfect life, look at my wonderful wife, look at what I've done for myself. Because he always said to me, I mean, his last words to me were, Tone, you're the only normal one in this family, don't fuck it up. And it stuck with me forever and ever, and always will do. And the lyric in this, it opens up this song with a spoken word. It is about sisters or brothers who are very close, that separate. And it is about, I think, look, I have the perfect life. I wish you were here to share it with me. And that could go with anything. That can go with loss of family members. It can do with the death of parents. But that's what that song is, and it does. It attacks me in a way that there's another song by Anderson, Wakeman, Beaufort and Howe called "Brother of Mine," which does the same thing. But this does it on a more personal level. It's got swelling keys in the music. It's got Adam Holtzman here is just wonderful. If it's Holtzman, I've got to check my list. It could be Stephen. Either way, it's just a beautiful piece of keys in here. The rhythm section, the drums, and the bass are the heartbeat of this song. It's a wonderful sing-along almost. It's got beautiful disassociated harmonies. So like the harmonies are slightly mixed, slightly apart, and you get this sort of sort of moment where it's not the same. And yeah, that's all I can say. But it's just it, and musically, it's exactly how I feel. When I first heard this, I cried, and I'm gonna tell you now, I cried again today. I feel like crying now. I'm talking about it. But anyway, look, that's you know, we're all human, and we all have emotions, don't we? And this is exactly what this wonderful piece of music does for me. It opens my emotions in such a way that yeah. Anyway, also, just on a side note, this new microphone I've got, sorry, I'm used to leaning into my old crappy one, and sometimes I'll lean in. So if I get loud all of a sudden in your ears, I apologise. I'm learning to use this mic a little bit better. And when I get emotional, I lean forward, and when I lean forward, I just notice I spiked it slightly there. Anyway, I'm sure it'll be fine. And then we move on to Routine. This one's quite dark, guys. I mean, I'll say it again, but I really mean this one. This could mean a couple of things. She's talking about, and this is Nanette Tayeb again and Stephen Wilson, and they're talking about keeping the routine of life, you know, cleaning the clothes, hanging out the clothes, cleaning the sports shoes, looking for the runners, keeping the routine. Now, I don't know whether this is about physical loss. So this couple have lost, or mother or father has lost a child, and therefore is to keep herself from going mad with grief, constantly doing the routine because it just is what you would do. Or is it about, you know, kids have left home, there's no kids anymore, they're not, it's like myself and my wife and a lot of people out there, empty nesters, you know, but you sort of feel you need to fill the routine void. It's laconic, it's soul grabbing, it has a beautiful ascending and descending bass part in it. Govern's solo is culminates into this what makes prog wonderful. This piece, musical suite at the end, is touching and sincere, but powerful and moving and musically thick and delicious. The chorus that comes in at 2 minutes 57 brings in Nanette and Guthrie and Adam and all the musicians in this wonderful swell of distance. It has a feel of distance, listeners. It really feels distant. It feels like the protagonist. I know another long word, wheelbarrow. Knows the protagonist is. You feel that the protagonist's sadness and loneliness and, you know, just going through the motions because that's what you should do and that's what should be done and that's what has to be done. And I feel that the beginning is the wife talking possibly, and at the end with Stephen, it feels like it's the husband talking. And you know, I've been in this situation where you feel helpless when a loved one, and I still am now, needs you but can't explain how they need you, and you've got to let them do what they do, as long as it doesn't harm them, because what they're doing is fixing them in their own way and keeping them from the darkness at their doorstep, maybe. And this song, it does that, along with the previous one. Really, along with Perfect Life, these two are the sort of the cornerstone to this album. I think they two hold this album together in a musically and lyrically in such a sort of delicious sandwich of sadness in a weird way, but there's also positivity in it, because isn't there? There's a positivity that you might one day find your brother, your sister, your loved one, and share your life stories with them. I hope that happens to me one day. And one day you might, your kids might leave home, and there is a routine, but that routine will fade, and you'll find new routines. You know. The same with Hannah Cannot Erase. One of the persons in that relationship still loves the other person, so there is still hope in their hearts, but you know it's not happening. But there isn't two levels of sadness. You know, it's so dark. I really do enjoy this sort of level of delving into this music. This is what prog is all about, guys. And then we come to Home Invasion. Have I got the right? Hang on, where am I? I've got my routine. 1 second, bloody notes. I sat in a cafe writing all this out, you know. And yeah, Home Invasion Regret number 9. That's right. Home Invasion Regret number 9. It opens with a staccato. Again, it's 2 parts. It's music and it's a lyric. 2 stories, really, right? It's quite... the Guthrie, it's very heavy metal, this one. It has a feel of old Porcupine Tree, almost like it could come off of Fear of a Blank Planet. It's... What it's about to me is I picture this guy, girl, mainly a guy though, because for modesty's sake, in their underwear, you know, sitting in this room full of junk food trash, him with 3 monitors, living his life vicariously through YouTube and Tinder, TikTok and websites, not leaving, not interacting, and basically his home is being invaded by the external world without him leaving and actually living life. All right, stuck in front of unreal reality, right? You know, living your life as an avatar. I think that's what I wrote here. It's got a funky understatement that switches from funk to sensualness to simplicity, back to funk and heaviness. It's accessible. It's probably the most accessible musically on the album, and it's a nice lightness after the last 2 dark tracks. Even though the concept of the story is still quite dark, isn't it? Someone who's sad enough and who's introspective, or may even have agoraphobia and can't leave the house, and so lives like... It's very much a portent to what we had to go through with the COVID isolation lockdowns. And a lot of people still living in that meta world that they need to get out into the sunshine and live life and meet people, but they're more comfortable because of their personality traits to be stuck inside. And that's what I get from Home Invasion and Regret number 9. I don't know why it's number 9. Who knows why it's number 9? It could be a play for the Beatles, number 9 that play on that. I mean, he's heavily influenced by the Beatles, and this whole album musically is heavily influenced by, for me, 2 albums you can hear in it. You can hear Sgt. Pepper really deeply, and you can hear great swathes of Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys as well, and also Tears for Fears, as I mentioned at the beginning. There's lots and lots of XTC. There's lots of stuff in this. It has a kind of a jazz motif that runs through at 6 minutes 40. Adam comes in on his it's at his very, 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 very best. It could be Adam, I said it could be Steve, but it's at this piece of organ work, keyboard playing work that comes through at 6 minutes 40 is prog in a nutshell. It is everything that makes a hair stand on the end. It's like listening to Yes for the first time. It's like listening to Genesis for the first time. It's like hearing Rick Wakeman and Tony Banks for the very first time, and how you hear that swell and the stab and the power of the keyboard that's something that isn't John Lord from Black Sabbath, from Deep Purple. You know, it's not just keys anymore. It's multi-dimensional, funky, textured, interesting. It's not just, you know, scales. It's depth, more so than any other instrument on the album, in fact. And that's not saying that, because Guthrie Govan on guitar is genius. The solos that he wrote here, a lot of them in the studio as they went. He didn't write them down. He sort of ad-libbed them and left them as they were on the album, and it's just wonderful. And I've got heaving, swinging, tragic, painful, beautiful, powerful on that. I really have, and that's what I sort of pulled out when I was sitting down. The keyboards fold in a Govan solo that's soaring and searing, plain madness. It's crescendos into this usual Wilson subtlety and texture at the end. You know, it takes your breath away, and then like a fast fairground ride, it slows to the end. Like orgasmic crescendo, yeah? Just peak and finish. It's wonderful. And then we go into a smaller, shorter song called Transience. Now, I don't know what to read in this song. It's only short. I feel it's about family violence. I feel it's about the loss of family unit. I feel it's about not being understood by the family. You know, being the modern world. Teenagers not being understood by parents that are older and from a different era. That's what I feel. It's very troubling in a really odd way. I'd like you to listen to it and tell me why if you feel it's troubling. I feel it is. I think it's troubling because of its shortness, because of its lyrical content, which could go either way. I feel it's a bit like saying, I don't know. Anyway, let you listen to it and tell me what you think. Again, it's quite a quick piece of music, so to describe it musically is quite difficult. But we then move into Ancestral. Holtzmill wrote, which means keys again, right? Beautiful, very dark, ominous. Okay. Now, again, lyrically, I read into this that it's about. And again, tying in loss with transience, it could be a loss of your childhood, youth, not being understood by your parents. Ancestral for me feels like it's a story or a point at. And then please, I'm going to give you a little trigger warning here. You can stop now if you want, because if this is going to be upsetting, but it feels to me like it's a written piece about institutionalized family violence. Okay, ancestral, yeah, and there is a lyric in it. Okay, it's quite lamented. Yeah, okay. The lyric says that it reads to me that the mum doesn't see the signs of the violence that is happening, and the parent says this is only the beginning. You should have seen it happening almost, and it's the story of them running away, loss again. Loss of the family unit, loss of the love or the partner, of the trust in the partner / husband / wife, with the delicate souls and bodies of their children. I said sorry. It is not a song that I would want to get a trigger warning. I'm sorry if this is happening to other people. If it is happening to you and you are listening to this, there are people you can reach out to. In any country you're in, there's always someone to help. Always. There's always an institution somewhere. There's always someone in family or friend that you can trust that you can reach out to. And this song might trigger, so be careful, all right? I just put haunting. Nanette Tayeb's chorus and harmony is just haunting. It uses this sort of strange textural underspoken word where it's saying numbers, and I don't know why it's saying numbers. It just is, someone's muttering numerical scales underneath the music. It adds to the sort of whirlpool of darkness and sadness and the void in the notes. I did tell you that it's not a song for me. It's not an easy listening song. You have to get through it. And I originally, when I listened to it, I didn't really hear what I heard until I heard it yesterday and today, and it was just like, oh God, that's what it's about. It's got a heavy metal-y kind of sense to it at the end. It's very I'm going to be honest with you, one of the trickiest songs to listen to. Not musically it's beautiful. It's conceptually, I think what I've read into it really sort of disturbed me, but you know, in a positive way, that it does open up your eyes to these things that do happen. You know, it does. And then we move into the last track on the album. We come to this fantastic piece of music, Happy Return / Ascendant Hereon. Okay, I'm just going to get a sip of tea and I'll talk about it. I'm just going to pause a second. Didn't even hear me. What a fantastic pause I have. Anyway, after the darkness of Ancestral, here comes the tears again, Tone. Hold on, strap in. The final track, I said, Happy Returns, Ascendant Hereon. Wow. If you thought that, if I thought that I was going to be sad at the other song about loss of my brother, i.e. Perfect Life, he really wraps it in the end with even more for Happy Returns. It's basically a letter to his brother, to someone's brother, saying, "Hey mate, how you going? Do you remember me?" You know, the rain, you can hear the rain pouring in the background. It feels like someone is sitting in a flat house, a room, a hotel room, a cafe, wherever you want, the rain pouring down, and him writing a letter to his brother saying, you know, do you remember me? Do the kids still remember me? You know, and I will read you the lyric. I said I wasn't going to, but I'm going to read the lyric because I think it's really important I do so. Nice piano in the background, lovely ascending piece of music. Hey brother, happy returns. It's been a while now. I bet you thought that I was dead, but I'm still here. Nothing's changed. Hey brother, I'd love to tell you I've been busy, but that would be a lie, because the truth is the years just pass like trains. I wave, but they don't slow down. Hey brother, I see the freaks and dispossessed on day release, avoiding the police. I feel I'm falling once again, but now there's no one left to catch me. Hey brother, I feel I'm living in parentness. I'm living in parentheses, and I got trouble with the bills. Do the kids remember me? Well, I got the gifts from them, and for you, sorrow, but I'm feeling kind of drowsy now, so I'll finish this tomorrow. Now, I probably butchered that lyric, but what it's saying is, you know, I do have things to give your children. I've got nothing but sorrow for you. I don't know what to do, and I'm going to finish tomorrow, which means, really, let's be honest, he's not going to. He's not going to send that letter. He's not going to send that card. He's not going to pick up the phone. He's not going to say, hey, how are you? Let's go for a beer and a coffee or a chat. Let's have dinner. He's just going to let the days go by again and find excuses in his loss. His loss for for his own, his own loss of his loss of the ability to stand up and say, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to say hello, because like my brother, it's a two-way street. I have tried to find them, but the world is a big place, and if you don't want to be found, you ain't going to be found. And there's so many people out there that will be listening to this now that will have the same issue as me. I'm not alone, and we're not alone. But it is a sad place sometimes, to feel that you would like to reach out to your family members, ones you love, and even those ones you don't, just to show them what you're doing, what's happening, and how life is going. And this is what the song does with this ending of this album. Now, musically, it's just like the rest of it. It's textured, layered, beautiful, soul-searing. It is an allegory for modern life, that Stephen Wilson's 1 hour and 5 minutes, I believe this album runs for, feels. And it's why he's loved and loathed by so many people. He's loved by us that understand his genius, and he's loathed by people that are scared and jealous of his genius. And I don't want to use the word genius lightly, but he really, truly is a musical genius. Blood flows through his veins music flows through his veins like blood flows through ours. He's every living, waking moment, I believe, if it's not filled with the love and thoughts of his family, children, wife, and pets, and friends, is filled with how to make music and to be different and to constantly challenge and change. And this album, unlike any other album he's done, is so layered, textured, and beautiful. Look, The Raven is a wonderful album. It's one of my favourite albums of his. But this stands alone as a yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's difficult to wrap your head around sometimes, but when you do and you give it house room, whether it be on vinyl, on CD, download, whatever way you choose to consume it, you have to listen to it in whole. It's not an album that you can go, I'll listen to this as a single, walk away, may come back later on. You have to sit with it for the full hour and 5 minutes. You have to let it go with you or wherever you are. Because it will bring up demons in your mind, and it will expel demons in your mind, and it will cause you to feel uncomfortable if you genuinely listen to it. But there it lies his genius. There lies the musicality, the wonderfulness, and in these people that he's drawn together to play in this album, he's brought together a variety of musicians that bring so much experience of genres and textures and life experiences, and it's just, Adam Holtzman played with Miles Davis. Come on, people. Really, I know that people say, but Nick Beggs only played with Kajagoogoo. Yes, it's Kajagoogoo. Yes, I understand. We're not all too shy, hush, eye to eye, all right? But he is a brilliant bass player, and as I said earlier in the show, please make him a sir. I'd love to partition the king. He needs a knighthood. It should be Sir Nick Beggs, like it was Sir Stephen Wilson. He's just a musical genius, and they all are. I love this album. I love this genre. Thank you for listening to me. I waffled on a fair bit this week, and it has been quite a difficult album to immerse myself in, and I hope I've not made everyone go, I'm not listening to that, it sounds like it's going to depress me, because it doesn't. It really doesn't. It will bring up, and it should bring up, thoughts. That's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of literature, fine paintings, TV, film, music. Challenging. It's not all entertainment. It's not all laughing at someone being hit with a custard tart or falling over and hurting themselves, is it? It is art should be in some way challenging, and this is challenging, but also entertaining as well. That's me for now. Please do come and tell me what you feel about this album, what it means to you, if you've heard it, or if you haven't heard it, what do you think about it? I know it's not heavy metal, but it is hard rocking in places, and it's challenging, and I think you might get a lot out of it. Anyway, that's me this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for just being with me for this whole time. Actually, it's been an absolute blast, and this particular episode this week really was one of my favourites ever to listen to and record. I usually have to work myself into the day to record, like I have to get myself in the mindset, but I was straight at it as soon as I got back from my walk. I was like, yep, I've got it, this is what it means. So I'm really pleased about it. Anyway, waffled on. Do leave me some kind of review. It helps other listeners find me. It helps the algorithm on Spotify and YouTube and iTunes. It sort of pushes me into other people's realms, so I get to be seen by other people. So please do, if you can, do that. I'd really appreciate it. Whether it's negative or positive, it doesn't bother me. Anyway, talk to you soon, guys. Enjoy the album, and as I said before, if it brings up thoughts that are worrying, there are people you can reach out to. There's always family, there's always friends, there's always an institution you can reach out to in wherever you live. Keep safe, keep loving. Chat to you soon. Bye for now.